All right, Ms. Silva, welcome to the committee. And anything that all people can do to focus on concision, 4 minutes would be great.
Great. Chair Shields, committee members, thank you. My name is Kathryn Silva, and I'm General Counsel for the Zidell Companies. Zidell Companies are a family-owned group of companies that have been operating in Portland for past 100 years. We've got about 260 employees, primarily working in manufacturing at family job wages. And Zidell is interested in this bill because we have been pursuing coverage from an insurance company for an environmental claim since the mid-1990s. Zidell began the investigation phase of a DEQ-ordered cleanup in 1995. That cleanup was related to historic contamination at our property and also on the adjacent state-owned riverbed, Willamette Riverbed. The contamination and property damage had resulted from years of industrial activity of prior owners of our property, and also from Zidell's activities of ship dismantling from the 1940s to the 1970s. So back in 1994, when Zidell got a notice from DEQ to do a cleanup, we turned around and promptly gave notice to our multiple insurers of the claim. And we were very well insured at that point, had a very good insurance program starting in the 40s. All of our insurers refused to assist us in the investigation of the claim. They refused to pay defense costs. So we fully cooperated with DEQ, began the very expensive studies and investigations, and paid those expenses for several years. Finally, in 1997, we were forced to file a lawsuit collectively against all of our insurers for breach of duty to defend and requesting payment of the future cleanup costs for this site. Some of Zidell's insurers did in fact settle after a few years of litigation. So the case was partially settled, but one of our major insurers refused to settle and continues to litigate this case. It is still on appeal 19 years after they got the claim. Today, an insurer in Oregon can breach its duty to defend with impunity. There is no negative consequence to violating the law. If, after years of litigation, a court orders the payments, the only thing the insurer has to do is just pay what they owed right from the start with interest. In Oregon, unlike in Washington, there are no provisions for treble damages or any similar penalties that can hit a recalcitrant insurer. The only way to stop this bad faith conduct is to give the policyholder a claim for damages, in addition to just being allowed to recover the defense costs or indemnity costs that it was due right from the start of the claim. Zidell believes that the insurer in this case should have accepted the claim, should have paid and settled by now. Yet we've been unable to ever assert any claims or penalties for this behavior over this length of time. So we support Senate Bill 686 to include insurance under the Unfair Trade Claims Act. We believe that this statutory provision is long overdue as protection for Oregon policyholders. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator George.
I know these DEQ claims are incredibly complex. Partly that's the Congress's problem. Part of that's our problem here at the legislature. So I know these issues are complex.
Our cleanup is a state cleanup. It's not part of the Superfund cleanup. So
can you explain to me what is the defense of the insurance company? What's their defense? Is the defense they were fully notified? How? I mean, you had insurance. You're basically making a claim. What's their grounds for denial on this?
Chair Shields, Vice Chair, they pretty much throw up every single coverage defense they can. Starting from something as basic as this policy doesn't cover that, or there's an exclusion in this policy. I mean, there's a laundry list of probably 30 generic defenses that you will always get, whenever you file an insurance claim. Some of them are, this, like, for example, Zidell had multiple layers of primary, marine insurance, umbrella insurance, and you'll just go through the entire list and say, okay, this policy doesn't cover that, this policy doesn't cover that, then is it exclusion, just exclude the coverage. And claims for environmental damage started to be written out of policies in the 80s. So we were primarily relying on policies that we had, paid for starting in the 40s that were very broad and should have covered this kind of property damage.